the Kerem Atzvi, the Rambam, the Rabbi Yonah, and Rashi, and others. So this week it starts off with Rabbi Akadosh. We ended last week, went through the Zugot. It went through the different peers that had led the Jewish people. One was the Nasi, one was the Av Bedin, during the history of that period. And this chapter starts off with Rabbi Omer. He's called Rabbi. All of the rabbis are called Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yeshua, Rab, this, that. He's the only one who's called Rabbi. He was the one which either he collated everything that afterwards became the Mishnah, or he was actually the one he put the Mishnah out. He actually published the Mishnah. There's two different versions of the Igeret of Shir Gaon. When they asked of Shir Gaon, which from the Goanim, they asked him for a history from the creation of the world, basically, until his day. And he brings down over there, there's two different versions that were written in two different languages. And one says that he put together the Mishnah, but he didn't actually publish it. And the other one says he actually published the Mishnah. Now, Rebbe, the few things you have to know about him, he was extremely close to the emperor of Rome at the time. Rome controlled Eretz Yisrael. He was very close. The emperor at the time was Antoninus Pius. The whole bunch of Antoninus is together at that period. But Antoninus Pius, when Antoninus Pius was a child, him and Rabbi Akadosh were switched because they wanted to kill Antoninus as a child. And Antoninus was nursed by Rabbi Akadosh's mother. And from there, we learned this rule that, from there he learned to be extremely close to Yahadut, the Jewish people, and he was very good friends with Rabbi Akadosh. They were extremely good friends. Now, Rabbi Omer, what is the path that a person should choose for themselves? What is the path? How do you know if you're on the right path or on the wrong path? How do you know which path you are in life? So it says, anything that you yourself think is praiseworthy, but a lot of times when you think something is praiseworthy and the right way to go, it's not always the right way to go. How do you know what you're doing is right? If everybody else also finds it pleasing and praiseworthy. If not just you, but everybody else as well finds it praiseworthy, then you know that you're going on the right track. Right? A lot of times you tell somebody, right, a guy's driving down the highway and he's wondering why everybody's going the wrong way. Everybody else is going the wrong way. He never really wants to recognize that it's really him that's going the wrong way down the highway, and everybody's going really the right way. So a lot of times we think what we're doing is amazing, and in essence, it's not really amazing. It's really the wrong thing. So therefore, it has to be teferet lo la'adam. It's something that you find praiseworthy and glorious, and also teferet lo min ha'adam, that other people also find it amazing and praiseworthy. And now comes the big one. You should be very strict and you should be very vigilant with the small mitzvot, the same like the big mitzvot. We do not know the worth of every mitzvah. What does that mean? We don't know the worth of every single mitzvah. When it comes to Avot, when the Torah tells us don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, we know a value system. The Rambam brings down, the value system is based on the punishment. Right? If you get skila, that's the worst punishment. And it goes from there down. Skila, sreifa, hereg, chenek, and then you go from there. Malkut, you have karet, midei shemayim. You have all these different levels of what you think is worse and what you think is better based upon the death. That's where you could tell what's a worse avera and compare it to a different avera. When it comes to mitzvot, the Torah never tells us we reward for a mitzvah. Sometimes it says, do a mitzvah, you get a little bit long bite. What does it mean you get a little long bite? That means that's the part that you're getting in this world. Right? Like, you have right? The keren, the main reward in the next world, you don't know about. But you have certain perot from it in this world, which is but you still don't know the value of the actual reward for the mitzvah. So we don't really know the value system of the mitzvah. Now you might say, hold on a minute. If Shabbat, you know, if you don't keep Shabbat, you know the punishment. So if I do keep Shabbat, Flip side, I should know where things are holding based upon the punishment if I don't do the mitzvah. Maybe. The Rambam says maybe. However, there are other things that are involved as well. If there's a certain mitzvah that people aren't keeping. Yeah, if there's a certain mitzvah that people are not keeping that mitzvah. So that mitzvah is now worth a lot more. Even if it's a small little mitzvah that in essence doesn't have such a great value. But since nobody else is keeping it, if you keep it, it has a much greater value than in regular times. Much greater value. And the same things by Averot. Same things by Averot. An Averah that everybody's doing is worth a lot worse than if only you did it. Because an Averah that nobody's doing, and only you did that Averah, then it's whatever it is in the system. But if everybody's stepping on it, then Hashem is very upset about it. And if Hashem is very upset about it, then it becomes a lot worse. And that's, if you remember when we spoke about Parashat Ekev, Ekev, right? Kishmon, right? Ekev. These are the mitzvot shedash adam ba'akevo shel adam. Right? The person steps on it with his heel, right? These are the mitzvot that hold you up. Even though they're the ones that you think are small little mitzvot, they're really nothing. But in essence, if everybody's stepping on it and not keeping it, and you keep it, it's worth 1,000,000 times more. Now, why is it that God did not tell us the value of every single mitzvah? So that they bring down a parable, a mashal. There was a king who had a lot of trees in his orchard. Certain trees, the stuff are worth more than other trees. And he doesn't tell the slaves which ones are worth more, which ones he's going to pay more. They all go and they all collect from their trees and they come back. He then pays them the value. Hashem knows if he tells us these mitzvot are more important, these mitzvot are less important, everybody would just do the more important ones and everybody will leave behind the less important ones. And you need the less important ones just as equal as you need the bigger, more important ones, right? It's like a building, right? In order to have the upper floors, you need the lower floors. Everything works in tandem. So therefore, he didn't tell us a reward system for mitzvot. Not that our minds would be able to understand them anyway in this world. Now, now, a person might tell himself, listen, I'm busy. I'm a very busy man. I don't have time to do everything. I'll do my bit and that's enough. I don't have time to learn Torah. I don't have time to do mitzvot. I have time to pray Shahrit and that's it. Mincha, it's the middle of my work day. I don't have time for that. Out of it, maybe. He said, think about it. Any mitzvah in this world is worth 1,000,000 times more than the most money in this world. I once brought a story from the Kravitz. The Kravitz used to stand up. That's how it brings us down. The Kravitz used to stand up every single Elul and say the same story. He would say the same exact thing. He would say that in etrog, how much does an etrog cost? So back in those days, an etrog was a very expensive mitzvah. Because you didn't have, like now, you go to the streets and you have thousands of etrogim. You had 1 or 2 etrogim, they were extremely expensive. Let's say it's worth $500 an etrog. Now, etrog is how many mitzvot? 1 mitzvah. Every word of Torah I say is a mitzvah. According to the Vilna Gaon, every word of Torah that comes out of your mouth is a mitzvah. And if you count the amount of words you could say per second, right, which he actually counted, there was a certain amount of words, I think it was a few, 1,000 something. I forgot how many words it was. He had a certain amount of words that he could say per second. If you take all those words, times that by 500 apiece, because 1 mitzvah is worth $500, quote unquote. So it winds up being in every single minute of your day, you could have thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of mitzvot. And throughout the day, you have millions of dollars worth of mitzvot. So you're going to tell me, you can't give up. Whatever it is, that $20 you're going to make in that hour, that $100 you're going to make in an hour, for $1,000,000? That's the equal. That's the scale. Those are the two things you have to compare. The same thing is by an Averah. An Averah, if you don't do the Averah, you get rewarded. If let's say an Averah comes to your hand to do and you don't do it, you get rewarded for not doing the Averah. That's how it works. If an Averah comes to your hand and you hold it back, you get rewarded. So number 1 is, how much, if you do the Averah, you know how much you're going to lose. All the reward that you would have for the mitzvah that you could have gotten at that second by not doing the Averah. Now, how do you keep yourself from keep doing Averot? So he ends off with an advice. Yistaker b'shvoshe devarim ve'ein adam bali de'avera. Look at 3 things and you won't sin. Da no. Ma'ale memcha. What's above you? Ayin roeh, the all-seeing eye. Bo'zen shema'at, and the ear that hears. L'chol ma'asecha b'seifah nichtavim. And all your actions or deeds are written down in the Sefer. Everything. And this, if you open up the Shulchan Aruch, first halacha, you open up first halacha, Shiviti Hashem Lenegdi Tamid. View God in front of you wherever you are. Why? Explains the halacha. Because the way you act, if you know somebody sees you, is a lot different than the way you act if you don't think anybody's seeing you. Right? So a lot of times you would never do these things if people know what you're doing. Right? When people see you, when you go out in the street, you dress a certain way. When you have to dress a different way, right? The way you talk, the way you act, the way you interact. People have entirely different lives, whether inside the house or outside the house. And a person has to realize God is in your house the same like he's outside your house. God sees everything. He hears everything. Remember what we spoke about last week? Speech is the most important. He hears everything. Right? The famous saying, the walls have ears. God hears everything that is said. And every single action and deed of a person's life, every thought, every speech, every action is all written down in a book. And says after a person passes on, he comes upstairs and they show him the book, right? They show him the video of his entire life, and he actually signs it. He actually signs it that he agrees that everything that's in there is correct. And a person has to realize it's a very important thing. So if you live with your life, Shiviti Hashem Lenegdi Tamid, you keep away from doing chet, you keep away from doing averot, and then you keep your entire life doing mitzvot every single second. How can I do that averot right now? God's watching me. God's watching me. I can't do what I want to do right now. God's watching me. And slowly, you're not going to want to do it anymore. Now, the next Mishnah talks about the son of Rabbi Akadosh. Rabbi Akadosh's son was Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel, the Nosh of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi had 2 sons, and when he passed away, he said Shimon, which was the smarter one, should be the head of the Yeshiva, which is called Shimon HaChacham, and Gamliel should be the Nasi. Why did he choose Rabbi Gamliel to be the Nasi over Shimon? Shimon was smarter and wiser. The reason was because Gamliel had a yirat hachet. He had a big fear of sin. And for a leader, that's what is needed. A fear of sin. That's what's needed. So Rabbi Gamliel says, this is one of the most quoted portions of Pirkei Avot. Generally by people which want to make sure everybody's going to work. Yeah, because it says, Yafat Talmud Torah in Derech Eretz. Learning Torah is amazing with Derech Eretz. And most commentators explain Derech Eretz to mean work. Torah together with work. If you go through the times of the sages in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, most of the sages had jobs. They worked. They didn't just sit and learn Torah all day. They did actually sit and learn Torah most of the day. But they went to work. Even Hillel, before he became the head of the Jewish people, he worked. Right? All he made was a very small amount of money. Half he would give in order to get into the Beit Midrash and sit and learn Torah, and the other half he supported his family. That's how they figured out who he was. Because one day he couldn't afford to get to the Beit Midrash. He climbed onto the roof and he's listening, and the snow fell on him, and he almost froze to death. And they brought him down when they couldn't see the sunlight. They saw there was a form of a figure in the skyline, and they saw how great he was. But they all worked. And the Rambam as well, brings down that you're not allowed to make money off of learning Torah. According to the Rambam's views, Torah you're not allowed to make money off. And that's why the Rambam never took money for any of his jobs in the rabbinic field. He took money, that's why he was always into, that's why he went into medicine. That's why he became a doctor. First his brother supported him. Then when his brother tragically passed away at sea when he was going on a business trip for the family, the Rambam had to go take on the responsibility of making money. Until then, his brother supported him. But then he had to take on the responsibility of making money. And he still wouldn't take money for his job, even though he was chief rabbi and everything. He didn't want to take money for it. The other rabbanim, the other scholars of his day, argued with him. right? Especially the Ashkenazi scholars, but even by the Sephardic scholars, there were a lot of them that argued with him and held that no, for Talmud Torah, you are allowed to make money, and that's a scholarly debate in the Halakha. So now, Rabbi Gamliel says, Yafa Talmud Torah in the Acheretz, a person should work and he should learn. What's the reason? The reason is because if you have both, life will be perfect. You'll have the money you need. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to be rich. He's not saying go ahead and be rich. He's saying you make the money that you need to live, and you learn Torah the rest of the day, right? That means you'd work for 2-3 hours of the day, made the money you need for that day, right? You have to live with emunah b'tachon. That's how they live. You make the money for that day, and you learn the rest of the day. That's what they did. It wasn't like they were going to work 24/7. Why? Because if a person's not making any money, what winds up being? He has to make money. He's going to run out of money. He's going to be learning Torah. They have nothing to eat, and he's going to need food, and he might go ahead and he might wind up stealing. And that was what he meant over here, that if anybody, if he doesn't wind up having money, if he learns Tavon, he's going to wind up sinning. There is another way of interpreting this Mishnah. Yafet Talmud Torah in Derech Eretz means, this Derech Eretz is referring to Midot Tovot. A nice way of acting. You have to have Midot, learn Musar, have good traits, act nicely to other people. If you just have Torah without Derech Eretz, you don't have anything. You're going to wind up sinning so much in your life because you're not going to treat other people nicely. Right? If you remember, the students of Rabbi Akiva were big Talmidei Chachamim. They were extremely big Talmidei Chachamim. That's why we mourn till this day on their death. We lost so much Torah because they're missing. Yet they were lacking in Derech Eretz. And remember, the Derech Eretz they were lacking was a very fine point. That they didn't recognize the friend's growth. That means they treated the friends with respect, but not the respect that the friend deserved. That's what you have to realize. So, Derech Eretz is not part of Torah, right? That's the way you act. Midot Tovot Musar, the Dat Chachma Musar. It goes together. Torah goes together with Musar. You can't just learn Torah. You can't just be a Talmudist and a halachist and not have Musar, not have a refinement of character, which is what Pirkei is all about, refining one's character. And anybody who deals with a tzibur has to deal with a tzibur, the Shem Shemayim. Why? What's the reason why you're successful when you deal with a tzibur? Whether you are the gabbai of the tzibur, whether you're the rabbi, whether you're the mashikol, whatever job you do, which has to do with the Beit Knesset, that's part of being osek with tzibur. And we say, send to the Iman Tzarem, God watches over people that work with the tzibur. The Shem Shemayim. Person works with tzibur, he has to do the Shem Shemayim. Why? Because the reason why he's successful is shezchut avotam nesiatam. The people you're dealing with, the other members of the tzibur that you're helping out, their zchut avot is what makes that you're successful with them. And even though the real fact that the rest of the tzibur has what they have, because of their zchut avot, you still get rewarded for what you're doing to them. And that's why it's very imperative to do things the Shem Shemayim. Because you're going to do the same action anyway. You might as well do the Shem Shemayim. Might as well. You can't lose out. Now, Rabbi Gamliel, even though he was the son of Rabbi Akadosh, remember Rabbi Akadosh had very good dealings with the Emperor of Rome at the time, Antoninus Pius. However, Rabbi Gamliel, his relationship with the rulers that came after Antoninus was not as good. They were not as good rulers in general. They were not as favorable to the Jews. So his next Mishnah, he says, Havizihirin barashut. People have to remember this in America as well. Any country you in, be very, very cautious with the ruling powers. Very cautious. The ruling powers in the country only build you up for their own needs. They'll show as if they love you and they're good friends with you, when they're getting pleasure out of you, what they need from you. But they don't stand by with the person when the person is down. And you see that throughout our history. Throughout our history of our galut, whenever we're not in Eretz Yisrael, under a Jewish kingdom, and even then, whenever we're in galut under other kingdoms, go through Spain, go through Europe, the rest of Europe, the Ashkenazic part of Europe, go through North Africa, go through Syria, go through all these places. You have every single place where you have all these Jewish people that were extremely high in the government. They helped out the countries. They ran their systems. The banking systems of most of the world runs after the Jewish way of banking, which was created in Europe. And then we were kicked out of those countries. And the government would take all our money away. After we went ahead and funded the entire government. And we funded churches and monasteries. You'd be shocked if you go through historical records, how many monasteries and churches are funded from Jewish money. Spain, you know how many Jews reached the highest levels of government tax from the whole taxation system in Spain were created by the Jews. And the second, and as the Christians took over Muslim land, they needed the Jews, and they would bring the Jews in to resettle the place, give them massive authority, and the second the place became urban and normal living, they would kick out the Jews out of the position of power. And you go through our entire history, Germany, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the World War II, go to every single country. The Jews reach high levels in society, high levels in government, and the second it's no longer expedient for the ruling power, they kick us out. They throw us away. And there's a story that's told of a certain king who promoted one of his officers. And the king would stand up for him always and kiss him on the neck. In the end, the king killed that officer in the neck. He chopped the neck off in the same spot that he would kiss him every single day. Like there's a saying, do not think that the lion is smiling when he bares his teeth. He only wants to bite you. Yeah, human monarchs, human rulers are the same like a lion. And that's what a person has to realize. We're in Galut. When we're in Galut, we're not in a permanent residence, right? Galut means exile. We are wandering people. We're a wandering nation. We're always moving around. Always moving around. Thank God in America we've had it so easy as compared to other places. But even in America, as we saw this past year, so many anti-Semitic incidents, so much anti-Semitism, so much under the surface level hatred for the Jew. We have to realize our main patriotism is to the Torah. Our main patriotism is to the Jewish people. The Jewish people have to be our main patriotism. The reason how the Egyptians, our Paro, got us to be enslaved to begin with was you ran on our patriotism. Who's going to help build up Egypt? And we all ran to go build up Egypt. And they said, oh, you can do it for the country, you're going to continue doing it for the country for free. That was the first time that we had such a case, and it hasn't stopped since then. Who I am, Rabbi Gamliel said another thing, another piece of wisdom that he gave to us. Make God's will your will. So that he will do your will as if it's his will. That's number one. Number two, nullify your will before his will. This way he will get rid of other people's will for your will. There's two things that we have over here. Number one is you're doing a mitzvah. You have two ways to do a mitzvah. One way to do a mitzvah is I want to do it. That's one way. That's the way of making God's will mine. Because you understand, the entire Torah is not just a history book. It's the will of God. It's the Ratzon Hashem. It's what Hashem wants. It's all what Hashem wants in us. Right? It was the blueprint to the entire world, as you mentioned. It's the Ratzon, it's the will of God. This was his thought process, as my father Shtut always says. So we have to make his will our will. I have two ways I can go ahead and I can do this mitzvah. I can either do the mitzvah because I really don't want to do it, and I'm only doing it because I have to. That's not making God's will my will. Or I could do it because I want to do it. Because I'm making his will my will. Now if I make his will my will, you know what happens? He makes what I want his will. You want God to do what you want? Then it works this other way as well. Midah can you get connected midah? Everything works. Midah connected midah. Like we're going to see later on, probably not tonight, but we're going to see later on. There's a Mishnah where Hillel, right? There's a Mishnah where he saw the skull floating in the water. Yeah? He saw a skull floating in the water, which maybe we'll get to. Midah connected midah. Every single thing in this world, nothing happens for no reason. Like the Gemara brings down, there was a Tana, was Amorah, who had all these barrels of wine, they all turned into vinegar. Right? It's a famous story, they all turned into vinegar. And they went ahead, and the rabbis told him, maybe you should look into your actions. He says, you think I did something wrong? They answer back, you think God did something wrong? God does everything for a reason. There's a cause and there's an effect. If God did it to you, there's a reason why he did it to you. It's for you to figure out why. And usually it's midah keneged midah. It's always midah keneged midah. Usually you can figure out why it's midah keneged midah. Right over there, what wound up being was he didn't pay his workers. And the reason why he didn't pay his workers is because they were stealing from him. Even so, he should have paid his workers, so he paid them anyway. It's all back and forth over there. And in the end, it either turned back into wine or the price of vinegar went up to equal to the price of wine, and he didn't lose out. But it's just like the Gemara Masechet Makot brings down. A guy killed by mistake, didn't go to Galvut. And then there was another guy killed on purpose, with no witnesses, so he didn't get killed. So God makes it, they both come to the same spot. One guy, the guy who killed him by mistake is going down the ladder. The guy who killed on purpose is laying on the bottom of the ladder. The guy is going down the ladder, he falls to the guy, kills the guy. He killed by mistake, people see, he has to walk to Galvut. God wants every little tiny thing in this world. And everything is midah keneged midah. And that's all the makot of midah keneged midah. And then in the second part, batel ritzoncha b'pnei ritzona. Not just make his will your will, but nullify your will. What you want, nullify it. You get rid of it in order to put what God wants in its place. And you know what happens when you batel your own want? In order to do what God wants, then there's sometimes somebody else who wants the same thing. And if you get it or he gets it, only one of you can get whatever it is. But if you nullify your will for God, God nullifies that guy's will in order for you to have what you're supposed to have. Rabbunim, he would say there's two merchants, and they're both going to the Leipzig fair. One takes the direct route, one takes the indirect route. Right? One takes the quick route, and one takes the long scenic route. Both of them reach the same point in the end. Reaches the same point. Some people it takes longer for them to reach the point of serving God with full ratzon. Some people it takes quicker. Right? Some people do everything always the Shema for the sake of God. Sometimes we talk Shalom Lishma, Bal Lishma. It's all the work in progress. All the work in progress. Now, once we finish what these words that Rabbi Gamliel imparted onto us, we then go back to Hillel. Hillel Omer, Al tifrosh min hatzibur. Do not withdraw yourself from the community. If the tzibur is doing one thing, you don't do different. Don't defend yourself. Now, if the tzibur is not doing good, then you're not supposed to be living with Shot Tzibur. Right? The Rambam writes, when they were in Fez, I believe it was in Fez, when they were forced to, when the Almohads invaded Spain, and his family was forced to flee, they wound up in North Africa, in Morocco. I believe it was Morocco where he wrote this. I could be mistaken, but I believe it was Morocco. And the ruler over there was also part of the Almohads. And they decided they're going to force all the Jews to convert. But it was a wink-wink conversion. It wasn't a real conversion. Meaning the government knew and the Jews knew that the conversion was only on the outside. They're going to dress like Muslims and say we're now Muslims. But in essence, they still kept Shabbat, they still had Minyan, they still had everything. And they had actually sent the people of the city were not sure if what they did was right. And one of the big rabbis of the city sent a letter to a rabbi in the outside community who told them what they're doing is wrong, and you have to kill yourself. You have to kill yourself, as opposed to converting to a different religion, right? Because you're not allowed to convert to a different religion. And the law usually is, you have to kill yourself as opposed to converting. And the Rambam then writes his Igeret, and in that Igeret he blasts, is one of the few times he actually blasts another Rav. He blasts the fellow saying, don't mix in where you don't know what's going on. And he says the reason why it was allowed where he lived was because everybody knew that it was not a real conversion. So it wasn't like you really converted to anything. Plus it was Islam as opposed to other things. Either way, he says since everybody knows that it's all fake, it's not a problem. But he does write in there, however, one should not live in a community where you can't practice Judaism in a normal way freely. And he actually followed his own advice a few months later, and he left Iraq when he moved out. So we have to realize that if you're living in a tzibur where everybody's doing wrong, then it means move out of the place. But while you're living with the tzibur, you're not supposed to be openly different than the tzibur. And there's a story with that. The story that, there's a famous story that I heard from Rabbi Shlita, that in the Meir Yeshiva, so they had a changeover of mashgichim, right? The yeshiva has a mashgiach ruchni, right? The mashgiach ruchni, he takes care of the spirituality of the yeshiva. And the old one left, and they got a new one who had a slightly different style than the previous one, and there was an opposition. And they all decided that when one comes in one day, they're all gonna leave. So he came in one day, and they all left. One boy decided to remain. How could he walk out? It's wrong. So the mashgiach walked over to him and said, if everybody else left, you also need to leave. Yeah? Even though they don't, you also need to leave. So he got up and he left. Afterwards, the mashgiach screamed at all. Yeah, he brought them all in and screamed at them. Let's just say that terrible things happened afterwards. Anyway, to the people that were mizazel in the kavod, and they were big Talmidei Chachamim. Big Talmidei Chachamim. Anyway, further we go about do not trust yourself until the day you die. Right? We brought down once the famous story that's brought down from the Gemara, from the Midrash. That there's a big Talmid, a big Chaver Echad who was ready. He would always say, don't trust yourself until you get old. And then when he was already old, Hashem sent the Satan, and the Satan almost got him to do a terrible Avirah, and he was so distraught. How could I have almost done this Avirah? So it was revealed to him because he was saying, oh, you can trust yourself when you get old. No. A person should not trust himself to the second he dies. Now, what do you mean? What could the Yetzer Hara do to a person when he dies? Second before he dies? So I saw once, I believe that's how it brings down. It might be from somewhere else, but I believe it was there that I saw it. That if you ever, I think it was actually somewhere else. But anyway, if you ever say the Shemot of Avot Zarah, say names of Avot Zarah, right, which is forbidden, you're not allowed to say the names of Avot Zarah in the way that they are said, right, which would include saying JC in the way people use it, as a crush word or as whatever. What the Yetzer Hara does is he throws it into a person's mind the second before he's going to die. So if the person should die, instead of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad in his mouth, in his mind, you should have that in his brain. The Yetzer Hara really works that way. A person cannot trust himself until a person passes away. Right? There's another famous story. This story, there was a head of, I forgot a lot of the details, just popped into my head. There was the head of one of the big bandits. The leader of one of the big bandits, he was a Jew. And he was on his deathbed, and the rabbi came into him. He called the rabbi to come. The rabbi came in, and the rabbi got him to do. He was saying, if you do it, he was confessing. He was feeling bad about all his sins, and he was really saying things that were really working. And the rabbi says, "Okay, say Shema Yisrael." And the guy says, "I can't." He says, "Why not?" He says, "Because I see the Malach HaMavat standing there with a sword, and the second I say Shema, he's going to chop my head off." Not really chop it off physically, but it means to take the soul away. And he lost that in that last second. If he would have said Shema Yisrael, he would have attained a complete, almost a complete teshuvah, and all the followers would have done teshuvah. He had them almost. Don't trust, don't judge your friend until you stand in his place. Person has to realize that. Never judge anyone. Dan lekav zechut. You see somebody doing something, unless you know the guy is a bona fide rasha, unless you know you warned the guy already 3 times, yeah, and you know he does it even though he doesn't care and he doesn't like God, he screams about everything. Unless you know for sure. And even then, who knows why he can reach that stage? Why is it that he's that way? Person is very, very afraid. Never judge another human being until you walk a mile in their shoes, as they say. English expression. You don't know what that person went through. You don't know that person's upbringing. You don't know anything about the person. You know that the person really meant to do bad. You know that if you were in the same position as that guy, you would not have done what that guy did. How do you know? And if you judge somebody else, we mentioned before, midah keneged midah. There's a very good likelihood you will wind up in the same position. But you never want to wind up in the same position, especially after you judge somebody else for what he did in that position. Because then you are soteh yourself. You are a contradiction in yourself. And you never want to be a contradiction in yourself. Ever. You never want to take a proof from you yourself that what you did was wrong. Never judge anybody. This is one of the vital rules that every person has to live by. Don't judge. And that's one of the ways that you keep from saying Lashon Hara. Why we love talking about people? Because we're always judging everybody else. We're judging him, we're judging him, we're judging him, we're judging that guy. Why are you judging everyone? Who are you to judge? Gava? Haughtiness. You think you're amazing. But the problem is, then you could be put in the same position as that guy, and you could also fail. Never judge anybody else. Right? I always say the grass is greener on the other side until you reach there. Right? Nobody ever wants to live with somebody else's peckle, as they say in Yiddish, right? With somebody else's lot that person has. Never judge anybody else. Never. Don't say something which is impossible for other people to understand. One of 2 reasons. Number one, if you say something that other people can't fully understand, then people are going to make things up. And they're going to say you said things that you didn't say. But this also encompasses saying something that has a split meaning. Right? A lot of people it's called a gray area, the white lie, in which you say something which you don't mean what really you said. You really meant something else, and therefore you only use 3 words, and you want to add it. Not the way. Not the way. Every word that comes out of a person's mouth has to be emet, fully and clearly understood by everybody who hears it. You don't say something that other people can't understand, or things that you don't want other people to understand in its correct context. You don't do that. Remember, your mouth is the most important thing. Emet, God seals everything with emet. Aleph Mem Tav. Emet, God seals everything with it. Person has to make sure that every word that comes out of his mouth has to be full. Now, person also, he ends off with as follows. Don't say when I have time, I'll do the mitzvot. When I have time, I'm going to learn Torah. This crisis of what's going on now in the world right now teaches us that exactly. We had people who were perfectly healthy, and 5 weeks later, we're not around anymore. Person should never say, when I have time, when I have time. Who said we're going to have time? Every single second of our life is precious. Every second of our life is gone the next second, never to come back. What did you do with that second? Did you use that second? Did you utilize that second? Did you take that second like we always go ahead and compare it to a Mario game? Did you take that second and you put it away as a coin in that vault for Olam Haba? For your bank account in the world to come? Or did you waste it? Right? When you walked in the Mario game and you hit the turtle and all the money flies out. Yeah? That's every second that you waste. Don't say that when I have time, I'll do. We never know if we're going to have time. We never know when we're going to have time. If you have a second now, you take it right away. Moshe Feinstein, the Chatzadik Kadosh Uvracha, used to, by Tfilah, so by Kirat Torah, before, when it takes time to bring the Sefer Torah around, and they say all these things beforehand, he would sit there learning Mishnayot. Every single free second. He had Mishnayot, go to Mishnayot, go to Mishnayot, go to Mishnayot. He would also go, and between every Aliyah, right, between Aliyot, you're not just to walk, and you're not just to learn something that you never learned before. But either way, but he learned all the Mishnayot. He would go ahead and between every Aliyah, sit with the Mishnayot, go through the Mishnah, until the guy said Baruch Hu, and then he would put it down, and he would go ahead and he would listen. Every month, besides that, every day he would go through 18 Perakim of Mishnayot, and he would finish every month the entire Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. But I believe it was every 3 months, he would make another siyum for the Mishnayot, for finishing all the Mishnayot, just in that short amount of time. Wasting a second, wasting minutes. I can tell you, I waste tons of it. Talking to myself just as much as I'm talking to anybody else. You should never say when we have time, when we have time, when we have time. We don't know. We don't know where the hourglass is holding. Right? We always say when a person is born, there's an hourglass with all the sand in it. For the amount of sand that a person has. It's turned over. When a person is born, it's turned over and all the sand is slowly trickling into it. We have no clue where it's holding in there. Therefore, we should utilize every second. We should realize every second the blessing from God. How beautiful every second is. How much I could do in every second. How much life I could have in that second. Live life. Live life. Living life is actually utilizing the seconds of your life. Not wasting them on mundane, trivial things. Now, Hillel went a little further. And he would say, Ein bor yarechet. A bore, as we say in English. Right? An extremely ignorant human being. A bore refers to an uncultivated field, a field that you didn't plow, you didn't do anything with. That person doesn't fear sin because he doesn't know anything. V'lo amaretz chasid. Amaretz is a slightly stage bigger, right? He's ignorant. He's not a full ignorance. He's not fully ignorant. He knows a little bit, but he's never going to be a chassid. He's never going to be pious. Piety, being medaktek in every single mitzvah to do them all. V'lo habaishan lomet. And a person who is a baishan, even though Jews are inherently baishanim, Jews are inherently humble, people with humility and afraid to talk out of their backs. But when it comes to learning Torah, you have to get up and you have to ask questions. If you never ask, you're never going to learn. Person doesn't ask, won't learn. A kaptan cannot be a teacher. Meaning, what is that referring to? If a student asks a question and the teacher gets irritated, answers the question, but gets irritated from questions, he should not be a teacher. Because when the kid sees that the Rebbe, that the teacher is irritated, he's never going to ask another question. And he's never going to know fully what he has to know. Not everybody who engages much in business grow wise. Person has to realize that all the money a person makes in life is all from God. Everything that you have in life is from God. Everything that you have in life is a blessing from God. And just because you made it rich doesn't mean you became wise. Doesn't mean it's because of your wisdom. Or from Kuchabrichus, or from Hashem. But more than that. Just because you went ahead and you made your money and you've been supporting Torah doesn't make you wise either. Yeah, when you pass on to the next world, they give you all that Torah. But it doesn't mean you know it in this world. And the goal is to know things in this world as well. To make sure to learn Torah as well. Not worry so much about Panasa. Obviously, that is a worry. Obviously, that's something that people need to do, and they need to work, and they need to make money. But as we see from this crisis right now, Baruch Hashem, people are sitting and learning. They are shurim 24/7 now. So many that people that we're able to take. And we have to realize, you want to be wise? It's not the business that makes you wise. It's the Torah that makes you wise. Afachva v'afachva, which is another Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Afachva v'afachva v'kulo ba. Everything's in the Torah. Everything. Everything. We don't have time. I would go a little further than that, but we don't have time. We have to finish the Mishnah. This is very important. In a place where there are no other people, be the person. Sometimes, people are not doing what's right. People need chizuk. People need help. And there's nobody helping. There's nobody doing. There's nobody out there trying to help people or community or whatever it is. So you be that person. You have that ability. A person should never sell themselves short. If a person does things Hashem Shemayim, if a person does things for the sake of heaven, if you do things for the right reasons, you will always be successful. Now, if there are other people to do greater and wiser than you, leave it to them to do. But where you are the one who's there and nobody else is doing, then you get up and you do. Because every single Jew, no matter who you are, you have in you the Zchut Avot. We all go back to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We all have the Zchut of the Avot HaKadoshim. We all have a share in the Torah. Kol Yisrael Yeshem Chelik Olam Haba. And Kol Yisrael have a chelik in the Torah. And God, you and the Torah are one. It doesn't matter who you are. You are one with God and the Torah. You have a neshama that your heart beats with God and the Torah together. And therefore, never sell yourself short. Every single Jew could attain the greatest heights that they are able to attain. They just have to start stepping on the ladder and climbing that ladder. Bezrat Hashem, we're going to climb that ladder. We're going to go higher and higher and higher on that ladder. We're going to take every single opportunity in Kedusha, in Torah, in Judaism, to help other people. Give me that chesed. When you see people need help, to go out there and do for people, to help with learning of Torah, to help as much as possible for Judaism. And to that you'll grow higher and higher and higher and higher, and every single one of us should see the true potential that you all have and your true abilities, because every single one of us is a Jew, and we all have an equal ability to attain the greatest heights. Bezrat Hashem, we should be zocheh, hopefully. We should be zocheh to the Gula Shlema, b'mheira b'yameinu. Amen. I would